Okay, so when we have a printout that's on an 8.5 by 11 page, we take that 8.5 by 11 page and we put it on the back of our pre-cut mat and we tape it, but we tape it in a very particular way. So if it's a landscape photo like this, we hinge it by taping first on the top, not on the corner. And we don't use masking tape because it's acidic. So if we don't have artist tape, which is more expensive, it's like a white plastic masking tape, we just use Scotch tape because Scotch tape at least is acid free, even though it's not that strong. And you put two pieces like that so that the framed artwork just hangs down. So if I had X-ray vision and I'm looking through the mat, the tape would be there and there. And then it's just loose and flapping down. And then you use one piece of tape at the bottom to secure it, and one piece of tape at most, if you need it, in the middle of each side. Now the reason you do that is to keep it from warping. And so you have tension kind of like this on the paper, and paper with different moisture in the air and different temperatures will shrink and warp a little bit, and that tension only allows for a little bit of bowing right here, if anywhere. Otherwise the mat kind of can absorb it and it stays pretty flat. The very best way to mat is with a backing board, but I don't require that you buy those. And when you do that, and this is what happens when you get stuff framed professionally, the mat board is here. You take a piece of acid-free mat board or acid-free foam core. That's the same size as the mat. You put that down. Then you run your tape along the edge like the binding of a book. And you attach your artwork to the backing board. And you do that with an acid-free double stick tape or with, I like to use what are called T-hinges, which look like this. And then you just flap the artwork down so you don't have anything pinning it in, but then the mat flaps over the top like that and holds it all in place. And then you can put that in a frame or in a photo bag to keep it safe. And so we'll talk about that when you're doing your final portfolio. How are you going to store these so that they stay safe, so they don't get wrinkled or lose quality? The very worst thing you can do is leave them in your car. That will warp them right up, so because of the dryness and the temperature. So that's with a standard 8x10. So if you took your assignment, like your contrast assignment, which is already set to be 9 by 12 inches with 3-inch squares at 350 pixels per inch, how do we make that print ready? Well, what we do is we simply, when we print it, we reduce its size so that it fits within the 8x10. And because it was already 350 pixels per inch, when we fit it to an 8x10 window instead of 9x12, it's only a higher resolution. So it's perfectly good quality for printing. The ones that are a little bit more difficult are ones like your Cubist project. And that's the one I'm going to help you print. So if we open that up, this is how you make something print ready. You go to your finished assignment, and it's either going to be your PSD or your TIFF. For this project, it's your TIFF, right? And for your panoramic, it would be your TIFF. You open your TIFF up with Photoshop, and the first thing you check is your image size. Okay, so my image size, its physical dimensions are 12 inches by 18 inches, and its resolution is 300 pixels per inch. 12 by 18 is the largest mat opening we can buy. It's this. You can only get it at Michael's though. It's not that standard. It's a secondary standard. So if I wanted this to print 12 by 18, I'm great. It's already exactly 12 by 18 inches. So this is exactly how it would look inside the mat. So I don't need to build any extra space in. But if I wanted this to fit within an 11 by 14 opening, these are the two larger sizes I'll talk about, I'd have to go to image size. And I uncheck resample so that I'm just keeping my original pixels to start with. And I would try 11 inches. But I need it to fit within 11 by 14. And so when I change it to 11 inches, it automatically changes the height to 16 and a half, which is too big, right? So then I know that my limiting factor is the height. So I need to make the height at most 14. And this would fit within an 11 by 14, and its resolution is good enough, so I say okay. I haven't changed anything except for its physical measurements. But then I would go to image canvas size and make the paper 11 by 14 behind it to see what it would actually look like in the mat. And so in an 11 by 14 opening, there's too much white space for me. So that's why I opted for the 12 by 18. So that's a little confusing. So what am I talking about? Well, there are 3 pre-cut mats. And this is the question I get the most. The 2 most common, so when you go to the store to buy them, it's an 8 by 10 opening, or what's called a window. I'll do these portrait format. But the outside dimension is 11 inches by 14 inches, which is also a very common frame dimension. So the benefit of using pre-cut mats is they're cheaper, they're often better cut, and they also fit within pre-made frames and pre-made like photo bags and protective sleeves and portfolios. So it's nice to be able to use standard sizes. Most common. Second most common, the inside window, what shows of your image, is 11 by 14 inches. And that's because they simply take the big mat board, cut this size, and then take the window they cut out and cut that size, right? So the inside is 11 by 14 inches. And then the outside is 16 by 20 inches, which is also a very standard frame size, portfolio size, photo bag size. Now for a long time, this is all there was. And on your supply list, this is all it mentions, because you can find these anywhere. Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Hurwick's, Azel's. You can cut your own, but you would need a mat cutter, and those aren't cheap. So unless you've cut mats for yourself before, you don't want to cut your own. And mat board's fairly expensive. Mat board costs about as much as a pre-cut mat. So what should you expect to pay? Well, for this most common size, they're around $3.99. And if you're industrious, you can get the coupon online or in the newspaper for Hobby Lobby or Michael's and get 40% off.
40% off, and it's always.
They always have it, yeah. So, but it's only on one item, right? These I think are $6.99.
They will sometimes do it.
Sometimes there'll be a little bit more if they do a double mat, but it will always be these dimensions. And then the one that you can only get at Michael's, but I'm glad you can because it fits our paper size perfectly. Well, there's 2. But they both have the same window opening. And that window opening is just a little bit bigger. It's 12 by 18. So it looks a little funky. But because our paper is 13 by 19 inches, our largest paper, a 12 by 18 window is really good for large prints, like panoramics, things like that. Now you can get the 12 by 18 with a 16 by 20 inch outside, or if you want to spring for extra big, you can go for this purple here. me extend my canvas size to fit this extra big mat on. Or you could spring for the 18 by 24 inch, but the window size is the same. Okay, so those are the pre-cut mats. And that I think costs something like, $12.99, something like that. Michaels makes you pay for it. So these are the three sizes that are easy to get our pictures to work in. And that's what we have to keep in mind, either portrait format or landscape format. Right? And they need to be black. And the reason they need to be black is so that they all match, even if you buy them at different places. White mats, they're harder to keep clean, and they really vary place to place, the different shade of white. All right, how do you make something print ready? There are instructions in the class Dropbox. So if you go to dropbox.com or you use the link from the Canvas page, and you sign in to NLC Arts Lab, you go to Files, and you go to Photography Class Files, because we are the photography class. And you go into this folder, Flattened TIFFs to Print. You each have a folder. You upload your photos once they are print ready to this folder. And as to how do you make them print ready, there are instructions right in that folder as a PDF. You can print it out if you like. But these are the basic directions. So you want a full resolution flattened TIFF file that's sized correctly and saved with print ready in the name. So if I am indeed ready to print this project, well, here I'll use another one that needs some more work. So let's say I want to take my my effective object and print it. First, I find my most finished project, and in this case, it's going to be my PSD. No, it's going to be my TIFF right here. And I'm going to open that with Photoshop. Remember, TIFFs and PSDs don't lose any. Oh no, that's a JPEG, so never mind, I was right. It's my PSD. I marked it with green, so it's my best. Okay, so here's my finished project. I then want to go to Image, Image Size, and figure out what mat it should go on. So this is basically 9 by 13 inches at 300 pixels per inch. That was the standard resolution of my camera. So what mat do you think I should get for it? If I make it work for an 11 by 13, it is basically 9 by 13. So it would look like this. So it would have, it's 13 inches here, or no, it's 9 inches here and 13 inches here. And so that means there'd be ½ an inch of white space here and here, and 1 inch of white space above and below it. So if I want to see how it looks on an 11 by 14, all I have to do is say Image, Canvas Size, make it 11 by 14, basically grow the paper around with a white extension color. That's how it would look inside the mat. That's okay, right? It's not terrible. Does it have enough resolution? It's got 300 resolution. That's enough, just enough. I can't grow it more than this and not expect to lose a little bit of quality from the print. Okay, what other options do I have? Well, I could go smaller. I can't go larger than that, but I could go smaller. If I were to fit it into an 8 by 10, which I probably would,